Today we're going to do something special. We've got company coming tomorrow, so I'm going to make tacos, beans, and the dessert is even going to be a Mexican dessert called Pumpkin Empanadas. Remember the other day when I did the turkey and we froze the turkey with some broth for a later use. So we're going to use 2 containers of that turkey. We're taking the turkey out and making taco meat. We're using the broth to cook our beans. And then also the other day I did the pumpkin. I chopped up that pumpkin that I showed you in one of my last videos, and I've got, so that's 6 cups of pumpkin that we got out of it. Plus I already put some away for my little dog. We give the little dog the pumpkin in her meals because it helps her digestive tract. It's good for our digestive tract too. The tacos and the beans are just a process. There's no particular recipe for them. But when I get on the pumpkin empanadas, because it's a baked item, you do have to be precise, and I will provide a recipe for the pumpkin empanadas. So right now we're just going to get started with your beans, and I always use 2 cups of beans. Dump them out. By the way, these beans, these are pinto beans, but they're a little on the dark side. I don't like mine to get this dark, and when you buy them at the store, try to get the ones that are still as light as possible, because they have not oxidized as much. So what you do is you lay them out on the counter, and I like to do this in my colander, and right away I see a rock. Some people don't wash their beans, but I do, and that's the very reason. Because if you bit down on that, you would be in a world of hurt and have to have a dental appointment. So you just start separating them out. You can look quickly, and some people pull out their half beans. You can. Others leave them because they're already broken down into half, and they'll start making the starch better. And the more starch you get in there, the more creamy and gravy-like your liquid goes. So you get the idea. Okay, here's my beans ready to wash. Then you just take these and wash them out real good. Okay, here's the beans washed. We're just going to put them in a pan, and we're going to cover the pan with about at least twice as much water, maybe 3 times as much water. So that'll be 6 cups of water. Okay, so here's our beans in the bottom of the pan with 3 times as much water. Some people soak their beans overnight, and I have done that. But there's a new train of thought that says as long as you get them to the point where they're completely swollen, then you start cooking them, and that's okay. So what I'm going to do today is use the alternate method, and that is to put them on the fire, let it come to a boil, then turn it off and let them soak in that boiling water for at least an hour. What soaking does to your beans is it starts letting some of that toxic compound leach out of the beans, and that's what gives people some upset tummies, and that's what causes the gas. And so if you let them soak, that toxic situation leaches out, and you're good to go. So that's about all we can do at this point. It's been about 30 minutes since I last showed you anything on the camera, but here we've already got our beans that have boiled, and they're just sitting here and soaking up the water. You can see they've gotten a little larger already, but we still need to let them soak about 30 more minutes. In the meantime, I have put the turkey into a pan of hot water, and we're going to try to thaw it out. And I want you to see how lean that turkey was. There's hardly any fat. There's a little fat right there. There's a little fat right there. But as you can see, there's not much fat in this turkey. You can thaw it in the microwave too, but this is in plastic, and I don't like to put plastic in the microwave. I try to be as safe in my cooking as I can, but if I don't have to adulterate my food any more than necessary, then I'm not going to. This one's thawing out a little better. It's been about an hour since we boiled those beans and let them soak, and these tubs of turkey have been thawing out some, and I think we're able to strain the broth off this turkey right now. So we're just going to dump it in this strainer because we don't want a lot of liquid in our turkey meat, but we do want that liquid for later on as we continue cooking the beans. So here's our turkey meat and here's the broth. We're going to cook the beans in some of that broth. But the next thing we're also going to do is we're going to strain those beans. Because after you bring them to the first boil, let them soak some of that water up, then you drain off this water. Because this water has that toxic stuff that's in beans and seeds that you don't want. So we're going to strain that out. Then we're going to put fresh water in it and start it boiling. We'll save the broth for later on. We're not going to start it off right away with broth. Okay, I've strained and rinsed these beans, and I'm putting them back in the pan, and I'm adding plain water. That covered them about an inch. So now we're just going to turn the burner on and let them cook for about 30 minutes, and we'll come back after 30 minutes and see how it looks and see if it's time to put our broth in yet. Well, hello. I wanted to get this done yesterday, but life happens and I had to push it aside. So we're finishing up today. When I last left you, we were going to be cooking the beans. I cooked them in water for about 30 minutes, and then I added the turkey broth, and so now we've been going a good 30 minutes or so. They're just beginning to get to the point where if I start mashing a little bit of these up on the side, then it will start getting a creamy sauce to it all by itself. But I'm going to put some onion powder in it now, some garlic powder, just a little to your own taste, a little touch of chili powder, not much chili powder, but I do want them to have a flavor. But the big thing is cumin, so we're going to really sprinkle some cumin in there, and salt and pepper. And you put all the seasonings in the last 20 minutes or so. Give it a stir and give it a taste. Yep, that's just about right. In this skillet, I have a tablespoon of butter. This is where I'm going to make our taco meat. And if you remember yesterday when I showed you the turkey, there was hardly any fat on top of that turkey. So I've put 2 tablespoons of butter in here, and I've got a little bit of onion, a little bit of jalapeno pepper, a little bit of bell pepper, and some garlic. So we're going to saute that in some butter. We're going to put some of the same seasonings as we did in the beans. A little bit of onion powder, a little bit of garlic powder, and some of the cumin. So while that's beginning to saute and get tender, oh, I love the smell of toasting cumin. It's wonderful. So then we're going to chop up this turkey. And add it to those vegetables. And this is going to be our taco meat. So it's done. All we have to do is get it hot, make sure those vegetables are tender, and we can set that aside. Over here, I have our toppings for the tacos. Tomatoes, onions, olives, jicama, and cheddar cheese. I'm going to put a plastic over it and put it in the refrigerator because our company will be here in about an hour. I told my husband, it just dawned on me, we're having a Mexican entree, we're having a Mexican style bean, and of course our pico de gallo. We did finish another batch of pico de gallo. Isn't it beautiful? My husband did this one by himself because I was busy otherwise. So we've got plenty of pico de gallo. We're going to put some sour cream out, and I still have to do the lettuce. And then we're going to just toast these tortillas. So we're having a Mexican meal, but our entertainment for the evening is going to be Mexican Train. Have you ever played Mexican Train dominoes? It's a lot of fun. We get together and play Mexican Train as often as we can. Usually it only comes down to once every other week or so, but we sure enjoy our evenings together. So we're looking forward to this evening. Oh, and of course dessert is going to be the pumpkin empanadas. But let's get back to I'm going to switch these burners. Let's get back to the beans now. Now that I've seasoned these beans, all I need to do is put a little fat in there. Again, I did use the turkey broth, but there was hardly any fat in that turkey broth. So I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to this. You could do butter, but once the fat gets put in there, then it starts mixing with the starch that's cooking out of the beans. And it'll start making a nice creamy dish. So we're going to break up some of those beans. You could also refry these beans if you want to, but I just want whole beans with some nice thick juice today. So we're going to go with that, and I'm going to put a little olive oil, maybe about a tablespoon, and that is already beginning to get thicker, as you can see. So by the time they cook another 10 or 15 minutes, those are going to be just right. And I hope you've enjoyed this video. Y'all go out and get your own set of Mexican Train dominoes and have fun with your friends too. This has been Granny B's recipe. You take it and make it your own.